Episode 4 of Ralph's Stuff. Zion National Park. Visit to the Kingdom of Medicine. My warehouse. Oceanic Mountains. The Crane. No Frill Interstellar Flight. And Outside. It's Ralph Roberts. Welcome to episode 4 of Ralph's Stuff. We've got a good show for you tonight, starting out with our visit back in August to Zion National Park in Utah. We'll go up to the Kingdom of Medicine and several other interesting segments in the show, so we hope you enjoy it very much, and thanks for watching. My sister and brother-in-law live in Las Vegas, but they'd much rather be out on the road exploring the beauties of the desert and mountains of the West than stuck in town. So they took us, when Pat and I visited last month, to Zion National Park in Utah. Zion National Park is located in the southwestern part of Utah near Springdale. A prominent feature in the 229 square mile park is Zion Canyon, which is 15 miles long, about a half mile wide, and up to 800 meters, or about 2,700 feet deep. The canyon itself is cut through the reddish and tan-colored Navajo sandstone by the North Fork of the Virgin River. And believe me, the river is not too impressive. It's more, we call it in this area, a creek. My sister Marie and brother-in-law Chuck come here quite often, so they know the park very well. They first took us up to a back area of the park that most tourists don't go to or even know exists. So we climbed a small road, and I noted that the road itself changed colors. When we were in the park, actually owned by the Park Service, the road was red because they mix, I guess, local sandstone with it. And like here, we're in a privately owned area that's maintained by the state of Utah, and the road's the common gray asphalt that one expects. We stopped at the side of the road just to get an overview of the vista, looking out over the canyon itself, looking at the red rock outcrops, the sparse vegetation, although there's quite a bit more than in the desert surrounding Las Vegas, for example. But there's still not the amount of water or trees up here that we're used to in western North Carolina. Still, there is some vegetation, and there are private ranches in this area. This is actually a pasture that we're looking across. You see the flowers. There's still a few desert flowers around. So they have cattle grazing, and private ranchers own part of this area. Now the rocks we're looking at out in the distance are part of the national park. This area has been inhabited for something like 8,000 years, starting with small family groups of Native Americans, of the basket maker and Asazi civilization back about 300 years before Christ. Then later on, around 1300 AD and so forth, other tribes moved into the area and lived here. Zion Canyon itself was discovered by Mormon settlers in 1858, and during the 1860s they pioneered the area. The first national monument in southwestern Utah was established in 1909 to protect the canyon, and by 1919 the monument was expanded to become Zion National Park. Zion is an ancient Hebrew word meaning a place of refuge or sanctuary. Where we're at now is some 8,000 feet above sea level, and an outlook maintained by the Park Service. Although little known, looking out over the canyon, you can see the canyon meandering through the plateau there, as my brother-in-law was pointing out. And that's me in my hat to protect me from the sun. Not used to that desert sun, and even this high in altitude, it was still hot. Pat's looking out over the canyon. It's a little bit better view of it. And no one else was up there. We were way out in the wilderness. We'll go to the part down in the canyon, the part of the park that most tourists go through, in just a few moments. That's some sort of equipment building. And there is certainly a lot of distance to look out through there. We stopped on the way back down to the main road at another ranch pasture to take a few shots out over the pasture towards the various rock outcroppings. See some of the fencing to keep the cattle in. This whole area is just filled with incredible red and white rocks. The red is sandstone, of course, which we mentioned. My sister taking a photograph of them, and this is on the way back down the mountain. And we're now back on the main road coming into Springdale, Utah, which is the small town at the main gate to the park itself. And we're now entering the park. At this part you got to pay to get in too. My sister and brother-in-law have a pass that comes often though, so they got in. The part we went to prior to this that was up 8,000 feet is free. And this is at from the visitor center, photographing the surrounding canyon walls. Look at that. Now we're on the bus. They don't allow you to drive up into the canyon itself anymore, at least not during the peak of the tourist season like we were back in August. But they have free shuttle buses, and they run every 15 minutes, and it's easy to get on, and very easy to photograph from, I found, because you just rolled down the window. It's so hot, nobody wanted the windows up anyway. And I got some good shots with my camera, just holding it out the window here. And the tour bus driver is giving us descriptions as we go along.
Off to the left of the bus here, you notice there's a first corral. They do offer 1 hour and 3 hour trail rides here.
Warning: falls from cliffs result in death. That's something pretty common sense. I don't know why they had to tell us that. I had no intention of falling from one of those cliffs. It would have been a very long way down. This is the Virgin River we're looking at now. You know, I said earlier that the Mormons discovered Zion, but that's incorrect. Actually, the Spanish, well, naturally the Native Americans, at least 2,000 years ago and more, discovered it. But the first Europeans were actually Spanish. Francisco Dominguez passed what is near what is now the Colab Canyons Visitor Center on October the 13th, 1776, becoming the first white man known to visit the area. In 1826, trapper and trader Jebediah Smith led 16 men to explore the area, looking for a route to California. These and other explorations by traders from New Mexico blazed the old Spanish Trail, which followed the Virgin River for a portion of its length. Captain John C. Fremont also wrote about his 1844 journeys into the area, and that's from the Wikipedia, which is public domain encyclopedia on the internet. This has been a great day, but we're now on our way out of the park after visiting the portion where you could drive through and did not have to take tour buses. And we're coming up to the exit gate. We're at a small roadside park south of Marshall, the county seat of Madison County, North Carolina, the county directly due north of Asheville. We call it the Kingdom of Madison because it was once a very isolated area. My wife Pat, myself, and our friend Fremont Brown are out to get some good footage for a documentary that I'm working on. So we thought we'd share some of the raw footage on the show and hope you enjoyed it as much as we did in filming it. This is back in July. Fremont and I had both just bought new high-definition cameras, and we wanted to give those a good workout also. It rained recently. You notice the river's a little muddy. There's a snag in the middle of the river where some down trees had caught on and so forth. But this is a very nice little park, and this was the first time I'd had the camera out, and it does quite a good job. A lot of the outside footage you see on this show is shot with this small high-definition camera, and then the resolution reduced in order to be able to show it on TV. High-definition TV is not here yet. We just hope it's coming very soon. I actually needed about 15 or 20 seconds of footage of the French Broad for the documentary I was working on, and of course to get a good 15 seconds you shoot a whole bunch, and I did get what I needed, and I might even share part of that documentary in the show in a forthcoming episode. The river's up just a little bit. That's the railroad track directly across. Beautiful though. Nice blue skies and fluffy clouds. Now we're in Marshall. Marshall's a town that's called a street wide and a mile long. That's because it's crowded up against the side of the mountains between on the edge of the river, and there's just not room to expand it much. So this town looks very much the same as it did back in the early 1950s when I was a small boy. We're from Madison County, my family and I originally, and we moved to Alexander in Buncombe County where I still live when I was 3 months old. So I think my parents were homesick too, so we'd go down and visit my grandparents and other relatives at least once a week or so, and we'd always go through Marshall here because that was the only way you could get there. This is the Marshall House. It's on the National Historic Record of Significant Buildings, and as part of the documentary, the gentleman I'm doing the documentary about, Leo White, was from Madison County and grew up in the Marshall House in the early teens of the 20th century. It was a bread and breakfast most recently for a number of years, but it's no longer open for that purpose, and we did have permission from the current owners to film the house. The house is directly behind the courthouse and the town itself, which we were panning over just a few moments ago. There's the town again. And the courthouse. That courthouse in Marshall, by the way, and the one in Silva the county seat of Jackson County, the old courthouse there. For those who have seen both, you'll note that they're almost exactly the same design. Except for the makes of cars, there's the statue on top of the courthouse. Except for the make of cars, this looks pretty much like it was in the early 50s when we come through. I've been through Marshall several times recently, and it looked to me like the same guys were still sitting there on the benches in front of the courthouse. The Rock Cafe was featured in the movie My Fellow Americans with James Gardner and Jack Lemmon. That was the famous One Piece of Pie left scene. That's the old high school on the island in the river, Marshall High. My mother graduated from there in 1926. The railroad, looking over the island again. And again, looking up towards the courthouse, and up above the right shoulder of the courthouse, if I may use that term, is the Marshall House. That's how close it is to downtown. Leo White was in charge of firing all the V-2 rockets that we captured from the Nazis at the end of World War II. And between 1945 and 1960, he fired more rockets than any man in the world. Tremendous story, and it was from a good old mountain boy who made the big time. So I've written a book about it and also done the documentary. He was also a cousin of mine, so I know a little bit about him. And this, while somewhat repetitive, that was on purpose because I didn't know what part of it I would be using. And now that's the sheriff's office, and it's looked that way for ever since I can remember, even back when my cousin E.Y. Ponder was sheriff of Madison County. Now we've left Marshall, and we decided to go on up to beyond Mars Hill to the Wolf Laurel area and look around. Check out the new I-26 that goes up over the mountains and makes getting to Tennessee a lot easier. This is at the Overlook, which on the mountain beyond Mars Hill. Beautiful. Again, it was in July, so everything's nice and green. Looking down into the woods from the Overlook. And down into the valley. The valley so low, as the song goes. That's Fremont, my friend. He's also a producer for URTV and getting to be pretty good at running a camera. This is at one of the resorts in the Wolf Laurel area. I don't want to say the exact name since I'm not supposed to advertise commercial. They had a show coming up that's supposedly the type of car that was used in Mayberry RFD, the Andy Griffith TV show. That's an old Oliver tractor. I'd hate to drive that one and plow in fields. I like rubber tires on my tractors. So that was quite something back in the days when it was quite something. This is not that day, by the way. Now here we are on top of the mountain, and they're building houses all over the place. My mountain ancestors had two very good reasons for not building houses on top of mountains. One was lightning during the summer, and the other was snow in the winter. But some of the newcomers to the area seem to enjoy building in places where we wouldn't have built earlier. This is my warehouse for my publishing company. Cluttered is a good description of it, yes. There is an immutable law of the universe that whatever space you have, junk will expand to fit it. However, I designed this warehouse several years ago and built it. And while it's small, it does do the job. We have pallet racks so we can put books and other stock up and more efficiently use the space, although the aisles are starting to fill up. Okay, that's one of our pallet jacks, by the way. One person can pull a 2,000-pound pallet off the truck with that. And I also have an old forklift I bought many years ago that will lift 4,000 pounds. That's the big battery charger over to the very left of it. It's electrical. I enjoy using this, although I use it maybe once a month at the most. However, OSHA did come in and make us become forklift certified operators in order to use it. And now we're going back out. A big old video recorder I got off eBay, which is obsolete, but I didn't pay very much for it. I'll figure a use for it one of these days. Perhaps even for this very show. No, they don't have that sort of recorder up there. That's the loading dock in the very back there at the door. This is our cart we use to pick stock off the top shelves, and I'm climbing it now with the camera. Basically, I did this as a test of the camera. I'm using existing light. There's no special lighting as one would normally do when shooting video. And now I'm up close to the ceiling and looking around the warehouse with the camera. And there's stuff up there I haven't even seen for a while. Coming down, one small step for mankind, one giant leap, etc. And now we're going back up towards the offices at the front of the warehouse. Step by step. But I enjoy having this space. I just wish I had about 3 times that much. And here we are back at the shipping table once more. This is one of my experiments in computer animation where I've created an imaginary island chain of mountains out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. It's 3-dimensional. It's relatively realistic. And for the test, it's not too bad. It's 3-dimensional, of course. You can go around different places in it, and it changes. And I've generated this short film from it. Oops, we're going off the edge of the world. Columbus was right after all. Saw the black void there where the flat world ended. But anyway, we're back flying through the mountains over the ocean. And this has been a test, but one I enjoyed. I hope you guys did too. I've got a lot to learn, but I enjoy computer animation. And those of you who have watched previous airings of this show know that I love the big equipment. The ponderous grace of these yellow monsters continue to fascinate me, and the amount of work they can do and let just one operator lift tremendous loads as this crane is preparing to do. They're putting in the floor joists in the house going in next door to us. We're getting a new neighbor. The joists are laying there flat. I just stepped outside my office and I'm using the telephoto lens. This is probably 400 or 500 feet away from where I am. I should have brought the tripod out. This is a little jerky. There's one of the joists going into place. And he's going to swing around and get another one. This must be fun to operate. This guy's got a good job. A very uplifting job. Okay. There he goes. Now he's got it. In this case, I was trying to do glass or plastic. In other words, a clear, transparent subject, and you can see the little alien floating around inside there. Takes a surprising amount of computer resources. For this 40 seconds or so, it took about a day and a half to render it out, but it worked. In the spring of last year, a wind-blown maple seed took root where a limb had broken off on my old apple tree. Both the maple tree and the apple tree have flourished. I have high hopes of the apples next year being maple flavored. I call this a maple tree. I've lived on this farm since I was 3 months old in 1946. On the farm is this old barn. Was probably built around 1920, as near as we can tell. Up until about 4 years ago, we had cows on the farm, and the cows were fed hay out of this barn. And obviously a lot of hay bales broke over the years, and we need to get in and clean it up. Our silo here on the farm is 32 feet high, made of concrete. Back in the 1950s, when I was a little boy, we used to grow corn and cut it up each year and turn it into what was called silage and feed the cows with it during the winter. We have not done that since the late 50s, so the silo's been pretty much derelict since then. Go to ralphwroberts.com to see this show again.